Back with another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer. In studio with us, Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. We have a special guest today, Amy Luckenbill.
Yes,
we'll get with Amy in just a minute. How's everything going, Travis? I know that we've had, as we're recording this, a little bit of a break in the heat. Does that translate into fewer service calls on the HVAC side?
I don't know. Yesterday was pretty warm, and today's supposed to be 94 with the humidity. So
we didn't get a break in the heat.
We got a break. I mean, it's been in the 80s. It's been steady. It's that time of year where we're starting to see bigger repairs, stuff that's run for a while, and all of a sudden it breaks. Right. So we've dealt with that. Honestly, right now, so we're dealing with plumbing repairs or HVAC repairs as far as that goes. We're kind of getting into some project jobs, which sometimes happens this time of year. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, it's really broken to fix it. You got to spend a lot of money, and that's kind of with where we're at. Installers are very busy right now. And then plumbing stuff, man, all of a sudden, last week, kind of plumbers they weren't standing around, but they were kind of standing around. And all of a sudden, man, overnight, we got like 3 weeks. We've got 2 houses. We've got, we got a fire station. We got to get in-floor in. We got plumbing repairs. We got new buildings coming up, that we got to get done. And there's like only 24 hours in a day. So, so it is good. And we've been doing a lot of water line service. And for those of you who don't know, and I want to get to Amy in a second because I really want to talk to her. So we just got registered with the City of Council Bluffs or with the government for doing water line services. For them that don't know, that there's lead water service lines around the United States, and there's billions of dollars being put aside to replace these lead water services from the house out to the meter. Well, we finally got through, and there's only us and one other person in the City Council Bluffs. So if you're looking for, I hate to say government money, we know it's not free, but if you're needing help or assistance with that, we've been through that process. Now, we just did one out in Oakland yesterday, one of these deals. So it's one of the things, we can come in, we can change out the water line, the water service, so that way they've got, safe water inside the home. It's got to become more of a deal, and there's not a lot of plumbers that have jumped onto it, but it's like anything else, government blue tape. So, but if you know somebody that's needing a water service done and they're in an older, like the West End of Council Bluffs, or an older neighborhood before 1960, same thing, even in Nebraska, same thing. If you're in an older neighborhood where they had them issues, give us a call, or call your city, and they have a list of contractors. And, but yeah, we're definitely getting involved with that process now. And we've got quite a few calls on that here in the last 10 days or so. So that's been a good thing. I think that
probably was what happened. It filled up your spare time. Just with that, and once folks find out, it's really going to get crazy.
Oh yeah.
Let's bring in Amy Luckenbill. She's the director of HR for Keystone Glass Company. And Amy, you are in an industry that we haven't had on this show. We love to talk with different tradespeople. And I'm a little bit nervous with your background in HR dealing with Travis.
Yeah. Yes, but I have the HR problem in my company. We've already discussed this.
Well, and I am also the HR problem in my company. So there you go. It's me. Well, I'm the problem. It's me.
Well, let's just begin with, tell us a little bit about Keystone Glass Company. What is it? What do you guys do? What is your service area? Just fill us in.
Yeah, so Keystone Glass Company, we celebrated our 40th anniversary last year. We were started by 3 tradespeople who worked for a competitor who's no longer in business, who thought that they could do it better, so they left, and they did. So 40 years later, we're into our second generation of leadership with our president, Jason Epstein, and VP Matt Shapiro. And we are in commercial glazing. What that means is if you drive through a downtown area and you see a building completely encased in glass, that's what we do. So we have like Woodman Tower, we have the FMBO contract, we do everything from new construction. What are the big things we're working on? We did the new Gretna High School a couple years ago, and everything from huge, we're on site for 18 months, down to small vestibules that might take a couple days to install and service service work, so some service contracts and some call outs. So we have 5 service trucks in addition that do repairs. So all of the exterior finishes of glass, we do handrail, we do skylights, we do paneling systems, exterior finish paneling systems and canopies and those kinds of things. So lots of different products lines, lots of things to manage, everything custom, and continuing to build relationships in the Omaha area. And then we go as far as Sioux City. We have some territory on the Iowa side, and we go as far as Kearney. We have a couple crews out in Kearney right now working at the university.
Yeah, well, and I know from me being in the trades, that commercial glass business is that's huge, and doing HVAC, a lot of times with your big buildings like First National and a couple of other places, the glass that's used, the reflective, all the stuff that's involved with that can vary greatly and affect how our stuff.
Absolutely.
So we don't necessarily work with the glass guys a lot, but when we have conversations, it's usually when there's a lot of heat load, light load, and how you want the light to come in. You don't necessarily want all the heat and the other stuff. And, not only that, but then you start talking, commercial doors, storefronts, that kind of stuff, which is probably a smaller part of your business, obviously, but I'm sure something that you guys do as well. Yep. You walk in any commercial business or building. I think
people are real surprised. The general public that are outside of the trades and don't do a lot of work on the commercial side, especially, don't realize how much heat loss in the winter and heat influence there is just in the glass industry. And in our area, there's really no place to go to learn how to glaze other than the Glazers Union, or to get into a house and get trained in house. Even the 2-year program here in the area at Metro, they talk about glass for about 5 minutes in the exterior finishes class and right on. They never lay hands on glass really, and don't get into any meat when it comes to the types of systems that are used and the specificity of what's required in our area with the extreme heat and the extreme cold. So
well, plus the wind. I mean, wind is that. To me, that's the basic. Heat, cold's one thing, but you don't need glass flying across down, Dodge Street.
We really do not need that. And even in installation, it can be a beautiful day out, and if the wind's a certain speed, we can't install it because it just becomes a sail, a very, very heavy sail.
Yeah, and one that's very expensive if it falls and breaks or kills somebody. I mean, I'm not laughing at that, but it's serious business.
Safety is no joke.
Yeah. So here's what I would know. I went to the Sears. Well, few years ago, I went to the Sears/Willis Tower in Chicago. So I don't know if you've ever been or not, but if you go up to the Willis Tower, you go up to the top. They got this platform that's glassy. You can walk out, and you're literally stand up over the skyway.
You can walk out. I'm not.
My son did. I looked over the edge and said, "Oh hell no!" So
hard pass.
But that's some of, not that that's a normal thing for you, but you go to these places where glass is becoming the floor. That's kind of a part of what you guys do too, isn't it? Am I correct?
It is. I would say being a small company, we're under 100 employees. So being a small company, we are not likely to bid a contract of that nature, being that high up in the air. We're not set up for that kind of height, but we, and you have to be able to hire people who are okay working at that kind of height.
I'm not.
No, I tap out at about 3 stories in a lift. But we have a certain few folks who really enjoy that kind of work. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But they do, and they do a really good job. But we're not equipped to do a huge project like that type of flooring system.
Of course, there's not. Here in Omaha, you've got, let's see, you got the Woodman Tower, you got the First National Tower, and then the new tower that's going up. Is that which building is that? I don't know.
Mutual of Omaha, isn't it?
Mutual of Omaha.
There you go.
So the union shop is most likely to take that because they're set up with that, and I don't know the specifics of who has that contract, we are more likely, and we work in tandem with other houses because some projects are just too big. So we're more likely to do the interior glass,
sure.
the handrails, the stair rails, all of the decorative glass that's inside. Glass is really popular in office environments right now. In a different setup, I would turn my camera and show you my front office, but I'm in a fishbowl. A whole wall of my office is just glass with a big Italian system that is very popular right now. And so sliding glass doors in the offices kind of give that in between closed office and open concept feeling that people like, and it's real popular right now because of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My son worked for Gallup for quite a while, and Gallup has a lot of that in there too. When you walk around, so you kind of go, yeah, that's what I said. It's a totally different world, especially talk commercial glass. I obviously a lot of stuff you probably come through to do is service and repair, but if you're bidding the new construction stuff, there's a lot of specification that goes in. Plus, you kind of, how do I say this? Well, you kind of get on the artsy side. And listen, I'm about as imaginative as a rock when it comes to that stuff. So I'm not the one to talk to you about art, but that's why people like glass, because of the look, or the artistic, just like your background.
The designers really love it. Yes. This is a $25 Facebook Marketplace find. Okay. I'm like, I need a really large piece of art. We moved into this office actually like a week before COVID hit. So we moved into a new tenant improvement office, and everybody got settled in. And then a week later, we sent everybody home. So I just needed a really big piece of art for a huge wall at a price point I could afford, and so I now have a bike on my wall.
There you go.
There you go.
So where'd you guys? You're in Omaha. Where's your office at in Omaha then?
We are. I like to use the old Anthony Steakhouse as our local landmark. We're at 76 Circle and F. So we're real close off the interstate.
Yeah, so you're basically right. Well, I used to say right in the center of town, but it's kind of getting to be more the east side of town because everything keeps moving west, So
right. We're east of center, but we're right off the interstate, so we can get anywhere we need to go. That's one of the reasons we picked this location.
Oh yeah, for you guys, that's because weren't you up on Maple Street at one time? Am I thinking right, or where was the office at before?
The office was actually over on 84th, just parallel to where we are right now, 84th and F. But we had a warehouse over at like 69th and I, and then another storage facility toward downtown. Yeah, and that was all before me. So I came in right before we moved everything into the same location.
Yeah. So first of all, you got a lot of initials behind your name, whichever I had to ask about, because I'm not, I'm very good at retaining stuff. But what got you into the glass? But was it just the opportunity to do HR? And and then obviously you probably didn't come in expecting to learn a trade. And so you're learning the fastest of the trade too, obviously, just doing your job.
Well, from an HR perspective, right? HR has a bunch of different types of titles behind their name, but I consider myself an HR business partner, which is the moniker that we use in the HR world to designate away from paper pusher. Right.
Sure.
So an HR business partner, the person who comes in, I remember going to my first job site with our VP. I was a week into the job, and we were doing the athletic center in Papillion Landing, right? And we walked up to the entrance, and there was an odd angle, teeny angle of two pieces of glass coming together at this angle, and I was like, oh, how do you put that together? And he's like, good question. We don't know. Like, right. The designers make the designs, and they love the glass and they love the look, and doesn't it look great in a little rendering, right? But how do you make it actually happen? And then the back and forth between the GC and the developer and the architect, and saying, what are we going to hang it on? There's no structure to hang the glass on. And so I started asking questions about the products, and where are the plans, and how do you do the guys still use big paper plans, or are they on tablets, and how does this conversation happen? And I kept asking questions understand how we got from the design phase to the general contractor to us and the other trades on the field. And he was like, I'm here for a site visit to visit the supervisors. And I just kept asking questions. And he's like, I didn't expect you to be interested. And I was like, the more I understand about your business and what you're up against, the better I can advise you in everything that you're doing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So HR isn't everything, but everything is HR. So
sure, yeah.
I'm not the most important thing here, but every decision you make affects your people. Yes. And every puzzle piece that you move affects another domino somewhere else. And my job is to advise you and to help you cast forward to see those things coming before you do something stupid, really is what it is. For example, next site visit, a week, 2 weeks later, I'm a very strong advocate for disabilities access and those types of things. I have not massive, but I have a pretty significant hearing loss. So I wear this type of thing all the time at work. And so I'm very interested in ADA. And being in HR, that's important, right? And so yes. I was on a site visit at a place. It was a water treatment facility. So they don't get customers. They don't have a lot of staff. It's, just a few people coming on site, checking and monitoring and those types of things. But they were putting a new entrance on a pre-existing building and trying to figure out how to do it. And there weren't really plans drawn, I don't think.
Shocker.
And they were like... Shocking, I know. And so they're like, well, if we put it here, we'll be on this side of the window. And if we put it here, we'll be on this side of the window. And they're just, and so they finished, okay, we're going to put it here. And I said, I have a question. And they said, yeah, what's up? I said, you have an ADA ramp right here. I don't think you're in compliance if you put it where you just said you're going to put it. And my boss turned around and went, huh. Yeah, let's start over.
Oh, shoot.
Because they didn't have room for the ramp went and had to, work around multiple corners. And by the time they put this new vestibule in, that a wheelchair would not have been able to get through with the pillar and the wall and the thing. And they weren't even paying any attention.
That's interesting because we had a deal last week or 2 weeks ago up in Avoca, Iowa. They're doing a remodel on a tire store up there. Contractors out of state, but it's a shop. Truckers come in. Well, you don't think about truckers and disabilities, but I mean, it's a possibility. And he's wanting to redo these bathrooms. And when we first asked about ADA, he goes, well, I don't care about ADA was what he told me. I says, well, you know what? If we're going to do the work, you're going to sign off on that statement because I'm not coming to redo it because you don't understand, that this can be an issue. And he's like, well, I'll deal with it when it comes. I'm like, and as it was, the project didn't go to someone else, and that was okay. So, So, but yeah, that is important,
right.
With it and with your, especially, when you got to figure 36 or 40-inch doors, and clearance and just, accessibility, and they're wanting to keep the look, but you have to have the functionality of it too. So,
their major issue was nobody's coming on this site, right? And the likelihood of someone needing that ramp was very low, but the person doing the jobs in those buildings was literally pushing buttons, right? So it absolutely could have been a person in a wheelchair but they need to be able to get to their workstation to do that. And so, absolutely. Good for you.
Yeah.
Holding him accountable.
Yeah. Well, like I said, don't you have to ask some questions with the plumbing stuff. We run into that all the time,
Sure.
With bathrooms and single level homes and that kind of stuff because, or zero, what they call them, zero entry homes, I guess is what they're called now, that we deal with. And it's the same thing with business, you walk into a Walmart, or a Target, and listen, it's a zero entry for a reason, because
right, exactly.
they don't want to, but it's the same way in a lot of business. So, so obviously commercial, you talked about something. What's your bread and butter part of your business that you got that the Keystone does?
One of the things that I really like about working with Jason and Matt. Jason's a CPA by training. We're all doing things that we're not educated for, right?
That's all right.
And so he's a CPA, so he understands the dollars and cents and moving, and he understands keeping the portfolio for the company really balanced. So he understands the workforce and what they're capable of. And so he likes to keep a balance of 1 to 2 really large jobs, then a lot of, tenant improvement, medium-sized jobs that might take anywhere from, 2 weeks to 2 months, right? That are just kind of in the middle, and then the service industry. And so there's not really a bread and butter per se as a well-balanced approach to keeping our portfolio really diverse in case anything happens in the economy and the developers start saying, you know what, we're not putting a bunch of money into new buildings, or, there's always going to be service. So you don't want to be letting that aspect of the business go. And, as the economy shifts and tilts, he's ready to respond to that without having to let people go.
Sure.
To do it, and that's important because we haven't done a layoff since I've been here, which is 6 years, and that's in the trades, that's major.
That is.
But it starts with having a leader who has really good relationships in the community, and who understands the business and the portfolio that needs to happen to keep the business stable for the long term. And that doesn't just happen. Right?
No, it does not. It takes years to build that relationships. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we have really good relationships with the contractors, the GCs who love us. We have really good relationships with some service contracts of folks that provide us good work on the regular. And we prioritize our service contracts for folks who come with returning work. Unfortunately, that means we have to, we regularly refer, call in one-offs to other glass companies because we want to be focusing on our core customers. So
that's great that you're going to do that, but you also have different, what I call, parallels or, bands. It's one of the reasons we open up, we've done plumbing for years under my franchise, but we decided a couple years ago, we wanted to do full service plumbing, and under our franchise model, it didn't make any sense. So, I've got 4 different parallels as far as just on the HVAC side. Then the plumbing side, we have our service repair, we have our sewer line, and then, we have some new construction stuff that we do too. So you kind of have to be open to all of them, and it's a good size area, but you have to be open to that because, like you said, who knows, if all of a sudden the new construction market kind of tanks and it's slowed down for a time here, that you have to have other parallels to run back to. So that's very interesting how you guys able to look at that as far as your business model, and that your staff is flexible enough that they're able to kind of shift.
Right, and that's from a training and development standpoint, right? So, are you familiar with the term T employees?
Key employees?
T.
Okay, yeah. No. Okay,
so a time out. A T employee is the cross is a generalist function, right? Okay. Our glazers can generally have some understanding. If we switch them over to panels, they've got a general understanding of how panel systems work, right?
Okay.
But then we have the vertical structure, which is a specialty, right? So we have guys who are just really pristine in their finish caulking, and when everything goes through on a punch list and this doesn't look great, they're the guy who goes back and they do the finish. They're really good at finish, right? Or we have other guys who are really good at the welding, and they're certified, and that's what they love to do, but they're glazers who are also certified welders. So the generalist function on the horizontal just means they can do a little bit of everything. They can tag in as a crew member and understand how the process works and dig in and do, but they also have some kind of specialist function that we've invested some extra training in them, or have encouraged them to continue developing, or we've just seen, oh, they're really good at this, so we'll just continue to utilize that function. And so by having the generalist function, we can shift and pivot. For example, we also do auto door.
Oh, really? Okay.
We have the the product is BSAM, Asa Able BSAM, maybe. We have we're the BSAM distributor of the auto unit. And so if we install it, it's guaranteed. If someone else installs it, it's not
guaranteed. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so all of those sign-offs, but the folks who do the auto door function, and there's plenty of business, and they spend probably 80 to 85% of their time doing auto, they were also glazers first. So they can shift when it comes time to just, we need a couple extra set of hands out on this job, go help set this line of glass, and then the next day they're back to their auto door. And so that flexibility is really important in the business as well.
Wow. So do you guys, so with Keystone, you have obviously got 100 employees, you got good sized shop, lots of avenues. Do you have now training is a big part because we do a lot of training too. So do you have like an apprenticeship, in-house apprenticeship program? Do you go through the union? I mean, how does that work for you guys then?
So when I came on board, putting a new fella into the field was kind of a free-for-all, right? It was sink or swim. You'll either figure it out or you won't, right? Which is definitely go get the board stretcher, right? That whole thing.
Blinker fluid, yeah.
Right, blinker fluid and board stretching and all of that kind of stuff.
I was once sent after welding rod flux cleaner. Yeah. It sounded official.
Yep. Snipe hunting. And so, so when I came on board, I was, from an HR perspective, looking at the stats in our unemployment claims and our spend on temporary staffing and the percentage that we were spending over the hourly wage for those workers to be supplied to us. And so my first directive and my first deliverable is to get us a hiring pipeline of good quality folks, because they can't go learn to glaze somewhere else. So what am I hiring for? I'm hiring for basic level leadership skills. I'm hiring for measure twice, cut once. I'm measuring for mental math. I'm just, getting a pipeline open of candidates who are teachable. Right?
Yeah.
And it has to be more than two hands and a heartbeat. That's not it, right? And so are they communicating with me through text, through phone, through email, right? Do they understand technology? Can they hold a conversation, right? This is a legitimate concern in hiring for all jobs, but for the trades especially, is can you talk to me? We're a highly collaborative org structure here. It's not hierarchical. Our president can show up right next to your shoulder and start asking you questions. And as the new guy, can you be okay with that? Because he's actively working and just trying to get the answer. And can he have a conversation with you? If I can't, then we're at a communication impasse. So those types of things are the things that I'm hiring for. Then we put them in. I developed an onboarding process that's a full day of paperwork and who are we and how do we work? How do we, what do we do here? The same, encased in glass, and this is the type of stuff we do because they don't know. No. I developed a working for Keystone page that has some videos, some of which are very humorous, some of them are short snippets that lean into our values. Folks can go and learn about, and then And then I also send them just a general video from YouTube on this is what glazing is, right? This is what a commercial work site looks like. If you've never been on a commercial work site, it's an experience, right?
Yes,
and
it
you
is.
need to be okay with, you need to be scanning the environment for safety issues, and you need to be okay with mud, and you right, and heat
Yep.
and cold and all of the things, and heights.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put them through that first day of onboarding just to understand, who we are and how we work. We added a second day of training specifically for safety related functions, working with a safety contractor here in town and then a trainer here. And then we put them, hopefully we can only do one person at a time, which is an issue. We put them through a 4-week training session in our fabrication shop to learn how the framing systems work that we do here ourselves. And then they go out into the field and learn how to set the glass, install the frames and set the glass into the frames, and then make it all watertight. So through the course of that, going from sink or swim through this whole onboarding, good hiring, good pipeline, onboarding process, safety onboarding, and then their 4-week training and more training out in the field. Now, 6 years in, we're working on our culture to be okay with feedback. Like, that's a major thing right now, is can you take feedback? Can you give quality feedback with the goal of improving the systems, not to attack anybody, just to improve our processes? Can we start having dialogue about how to make things more efficient, how to add better value, how to get to done right quicker, those types of things? And there's a resistance to hearing what you've done wrong, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it happens.
Right? Taking personal offense that, dude, we know it wasn't intentional, but we need to get to better, right? That's all of us are here to add the best value that we can to the company, because it's good for the company, and what's good for the company is then in turn good for us, right? It's just a cycle that keeps going. And so that's the major function we're in right now, is getting folks who have been through this training protocol over the last few years, which is about 55% of our staff I've hired. And then the other 45% who were not hired with that kind of support, right? That creates an engagement dichotomy.
Well, yes, but you got one side that might be open, and here's the thing that just from hearing that, I don't have all the ideas. Listen, I've been doing it for 31 years, and it doesn't matter. I ran service, I've done some install, I've done lots of different stuff, but it doesn't mean I have all the ideas. And a lot of times, them ideas, will come back from your employees in the field. Talk about faster, better, stronger.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, if you're in management or in a role, you don't want to be told that this is wrong or we can do this faster, better. Well, I've done this since 1973. I'll quote the president of the plumbers union. We've been doing it this way for 100 years, and so we got to. It's like, no, that just because you've done it that way for 100 years doesn't mean that it's right by today's standards.
Our least favorite 7 words. That's the way we've always done it.
Yeah, you have to improve, and you have to be able to have that two-way communication, because time for all of us, for us, and for me, and for you, and for everybody, time's money. If my guys can get done at 4:00 and the job's done right, and you don't have a problem, they can go home and hang out with their wife and kids, or go do whatever they want to do. We all have to work. We all have jobs to do, but at the same time, people have a life besides work, and so you sometimes got to find that what keys them. Sometimes it is work, sometimes it's being off work, or whatever there is. But I think it's great that you're trying to open that up. It sounds like there's probably resistance to it, just because it hasn't been something, it's new for you guys.
Well, it's a complete management shift, right? In the trades, it's management by yelling. I mean, that's the history of how trades have worked, right? And we have a pretty deep history of that at Keystone. And you can go to our folks who've been here for 25 years who say that so and so trained me, and if I had done that, he'd have blah, 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 right? Right. So he thinks that that's the way to treat the next generation, and I'm telling you right now, the next generation is not going to put up with it. They're not. They will peace out and go find someone who will treat them with respect. There's a whole, generational science thing going on in this conversation, and my take is that there are terrible people in every generation, but this generation is teaching us that you can get the job done and be kind to each other. And we, I turned 50 this year, so I'm of a certain generation, and we can learn from that, right? And so there in the trades, there's a definite, group of folks who are anywhere from 10 to 20 years from retirement who were trained a certain way. And then the folks who are, within 10 to 15 years of coming into the workforce who are not having it. And there's a definite conflicting view about what's appropriate at work. And so from an HR perspective, getting everyone to come along and treat each other well and get the job done. I have a sign that I put up in a lot of my training sessions on leadership that it has it's a yellow safety sign with a hard hat that says emotional regulation is required.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about that though. And I'm 52, so kind of gets you an idea. And so I've got a dynamic here in my shop. My son, which is 27, I got twins who are 27 and 20-year-old. My one son, Hayden, runs our plumbing side of the shop. He's been involved with the HVAC since we was in high school in the Marine Corps. Sure. And I've got employees that are from, I've got one that's 10 years older than me, and I've got, new apprentices that are, 19, 20, 21 years old. So, first thing I tell them, I said, I'm an HR nightmare, number one. I said, I'm an HR problem. I've got no filter, but you'll be have no problem with where I stand. But we're willing to have conversations. It doesn't mean that I'm right. You can tell me when I'm wrong, and you have to be willing to have that conversation. And so to your point, there's a definite difference in my generation, and even jumping back to even with my son being 27 and the 20-year-olds. I mean, it's quite you can, I don't mean this in a bad way, but when I tell the 18, 19 years, say this is not high school. Not everybody gets participation trophy. But if you come in and you work hard and you ask questions and you're learning and you're involved with the communication and conversation, you're going to learn a lot. We're going to get a lot from you. We value it, but you're going to have to put the time in. You're going to have to put the work in. That's the part that's not going to change. You got to put the work into it.
Absolutely.
But how you're taught is a little bit than what it used to be.
And I'm going to push back on you, Travis, because when you and I went to school, Look at Todd's laughing at us.
I'm just waiting.
When you and I went to school, right, we sat in rows.
Yeah.
And we listened to the teacher lecture at us. And they gave us a worksheet and we filled it out and we tossed it to the person behind us who took their red pencil and they corrected it and they gave it back to us, right?
Yeah,
and we all passed our papers up and we all passed our papers to the right, and the teacher never left the lectern, right? That's what the education system was, right?
Yeah.
And it was pretty much kind of pass fail. You either got the multiple choice or the bubble test correct or you didn't, right?
Yeah.
And so it was, you have either met this expectation or you have not. Okay. And there was really no conversation about what done right looks like. It was just A, B, C, or D. And if you had any kind of question, too bad, so sad, pick an answer.
Sucks to be you.
Sucks to be you. That's what education was. So, and please understand, I'm a K-12 certified educator. So in my previous, so this is what education looks like today. Kids go into their English class, and there's a couch, and there's a couple of like kitchen tables with 4 or 6 chairs, and it's all decorated like the Harry Potter Gryffindor common room, right? And they get supplied with an assignment, and they get to choose how they want to demonstrate their learning. They say, well, this is really hard for me, so I'm not going to choose this one, but this one's really easy, and I can demonstrate to, not easy, but easy for me, and I can demonstrate to my teacher that I understand this content by doing this option 3 on this assignment, right? And then they get a rubric that says what scoring is. If you do it this well, you get a 1. If you do it this well, you get a 2. And there's a whole set of verbiage. So they get a whole rubric of what success looks like, right?
Yeah.
We never got, it was just, right, and there were no rubrics, and there was no level setting in education, and if a teacher didn't like you, you were screwed when we went to school. But now that's not what these kids are coming out of. All of their work is differentiated, meaning if you learn differently or need a different type of assignment to complete the work, here are your options, right? They're given options. And they're shown very clearly what done looks like, and it's provided to them, and they are happy. They're happy to meet the expectation when there's clarity, right? And what we do in the trades is just watch what everybody else does and figure it out. That's what we do. We set them up for failure. And if somebody doesn't like you, you're screwed.
Well, that does happen.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, so, and they and people move the target on them and don't tell them. Right? So what these kids are asking for is not soft. It's not that they don't want to meet the expectations, is that they expect an equal level of investment in success from the people who are managing them.
No, I would agree with that. I would 100% agree with that, actually.
So. And what's hard is, how do you get to that in the workplace? That's where an HR business partner comes in and says, hey, you need quality onboarding. Hey, you need to dive into safety. Where is the hearing protection here? You need a clear path. I developed something called a competencies assessment, right? It's not a performance evaluation. It's not like we're going to score you 1 out of 5 on attendance, and if you get a 3, that's not what it is. It's not graded. It's what can you do? How competent are you in this? And it's set up so that someone who's at entry level is responsible for the first 4 things, right? In safety, and the first 4 things in glazing, and the first 4 things in interpersonal skills has a really deep emotional regulation is required piece,
absolutely.
Right? And so I hand it to all of my new hires and I say, if you want to be an entry-level glazer and just be a set of hands who gets moved around, that's your business. There's no harm, no foul in that. You're not going to be failed. You're not going to get an F for that from me if that's who you want to be. But if you want to be a general foreman in 15 years, 20 years, this is what that looks like. These are all the things you need to be able to do in order to lead people, converse with a general contractor, be held accountable for safety standards, all the things, right? But I give them their path to success from day one in order so that they can say, well, yeah, I absolutely want to lead a team. Maybe not a multi-million-dollar project, but I want to lead a couple of glazers and do some, small 2 and 3 week work. I can read plans and I can work well with people. And they decide they want to get up to a level 3 glazer. Great. I love that. We need level 3 glazers. We need level 1 glazers. But I set it out for them in advance so that they know.
Yeah. Well, we do an apprenticeship through our HVAC and our plumbing side, and we're actually going through some changes with that right now because we do a lot of stuff in house, but there's some stuff just because of time we have to take outside of house with trades, in OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 and ladder safety and trench safety and all the stuff that we're dealing with. And I mean,
trench safety.
Oh yeah. I mean, when the sewer line's 10 foot, 12 foot down on the ground, and you got to do your benching, you do it. So, so one of the things we're talking about right now is kind of interesting is, once you get your journeyman card, everyone's like, okay, I got my journeyman card. Okay, you got through the first 4 years of schooling. You got through the curriculum that says that you have that card. So your term would be like your level 1. Okay, you got to this point, you're level 1 glazer. Well, you want to be a project manager. You want to take over certain things. And that's the thing. And we've gotten busy here the last couple months. It's still developing that from that journeyman to that project manager role that you're talking about. And what does that path look like? That path is not always the same forever. When I say always the same, it's going to be different for a service manager than maybe it is for a project manager.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to have some sort of road or some, and the path can change a little bit. I think you have to be open to that path changing, because you might get into this and go, hey, either maybe A, you don't like it, or she don't like it, or B, okay, to really hit this level, we've talked about going here, but we need to read correct and do that. So I think that's very interesting, because we're looking at, like I said, developing it. We had conversations, but then sometimes it's hard to put down on paper. We've had conversations about, but put it on the board and what that looks like. So that's actually now you got my mind going.
Right. And one of the hardest things to communicate on paper is, and I hate this term, soft skills.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, soft implies bad or unimportant, right? And I've had that conversation with folks, like soft skills, fine, but they're teachable. They are teachable skills. We just have to attach the right language to them. And it's about, I put an interpersonal skills, teamwork, and leadership section in that competencies assessment. And it's as simple as the first one, entry level, show up on time and work the shift with all of your PPE and your tools. Like, that's number one. But I've got supervisors who have trouble with that. Like, right? And so if my entry level guys are being held to that standard, but and I don't want to have to yell at you about it. I don't want to. No.
That's a do as I say, not as I do theory. That I was a safety officer when I was in the Navy for my squadron, because I always got hurt. So I'd say, do as I say, not as I do, and you'll be all right.
And 20-year-olds are not having it. They're not. They're not. Whereas, when I was 20, I would have gone like, well, I guess I have to do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so the interpersonal skills is the place that we're looking to for our next generation of leaders, right? If you can do all the hard skills, if you can do the measure twice and cut once and install the framing and drill a hole straight and all of those things and set up a swing stage and be the safety guy, whatever, all of that's great. But if you can't if you can't get real deep into the interpersonal skills, teamwork, and leadership function of that competencies assessment, then that's a problem if you want to lead people. But putting that on paper, and then in that new hire training, every time someone comes in, we cover that bucket for about an hour. It's 4 line items. What does success look like from a leadership perspective as a brand new employee who's not in a leadership position? Right? We start with leadership training right up at the beginning. It's being accountable to yourself. We talk about positive and negative energy. We talk about, this is one of the other difficulties in the trade, and it's not to, put gender norms on people, but the science bears it out that 80% of men have something called synesthesia, which is the inability to attach the name of a feeling to the feeling in their body. Right. And it's because we culturally do not train our men to talk about and deal with feelings. But the women go to therapy and they're like, I'm despondent and I'm frustrated. Right. And they have all the words.
I thought I just need a beer.
She's right. I don't know the definition of despondent. I don't know what that
means. Despondent means kind of, I'm going to use more words, sullen and withdrawn, like nothing can draw me out, right? And so, that's so funny. And so we have to start, there's a whole, again, an older concept of management in the trades that says that we leave our feelings at the gate and we leave work at the door when we come home. It's not true. None of us does that. We carry all that stuff onto the job site, and then we release it onto our coworkers, right? And if we can't have language about it that's at least happy, sad, glad, or afraid, right? Sad, glad, mad, or afraid. That's what it is. The 4 simple ones for the gentleman is sad, mad, glad, or afraid. You can pretty much distill everything down. I do a whole 1-hour training session on that. Travis, I'll come over and give it to your staff if you want me to. And it's how to deal with the hard conversations. You have to address the feelings part, because what happens is people bring it in and it affects another member, when the vibes are going really well, and then some guy gets dumped into a crew, and then all of a sudden the vibes are off, and it was like, what happened? Like, we were fine yesterday. Well, it was this new guy who brought all of his negative energy with him because he's going through some stuff, whatever that may be. And if we have to work with each other, let's learn how to have some language around that and how to support each other without affecting our efficiency and our value added, because every lack of accountability is a business liability, right? That's going to come out in a dollar figure somewhere. And by saying that feelings don't exist, you are literally letting dollars fly out the door.
Well, no, you're 100% right. If a guy, it's a simple, what? The wife's mad at the husband, or the husband's mad at the wife, and he or she's coming into work and pissed off, and they can say leave the door at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and they freaking explode because it's something small. We know what happens.
It had nothing to do with anybody at work. It does, right?
We're human. Yep.
The emotional regulation is required hard hat sign is about being responsible for the energy that you bring into a space. And being an adult who can process those things. I don't need to be anybody's therapist, but sometimes HR becomes the therapist, right? Helping people just process through will get you to done quicker than pretending it doesn't exist. And it builds community and engagement among your staff that they know they can rely on each other to move forward. I'm not saying we have to get all touchy-feely and take a deep dive into everybody's problems. That's not it. It's having a healthy mutual respect for the position that each person is coming to the job site with.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes it's maybe just, hey, acknowledging something, what's going on. It might be and you talked about, say, hey, I know you're having a bad day, got this stuff going on, but if you could bear with it, and we get through this situation, we can come back, we can deal with this on the backside,
That's it right there.
Said we're not discounting that there's something going on here, but we also got things we got to get done, but we will address this. And the thing is that you fall back up and you do address it, because if you let it fester, that's when it becomes a problem. I could 100%. I've seen examples of that in here. I mean.
And sometimes all people need is to be seen. And that 20-second conversation, Travis, will get you loyalty for another 3 months.
Yeah. Amy, before we run out of time, you've touched on a lot of things with young people. And when we started, Travis came to me with his idea for this podcast. And the overwhelming goal was to encourage young people to consider the trades as an option. Because so often, and you could probably speak to this, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but we're all part of Generation X. That when we were taught that if you didn't go to a 4-year school, then you were somehow failing in life. And even if they didn't say the words, that was just the undercurrent for the whole thing, which obviously is not true. And because Travis has had people come to him straight out of high school, go through his program and training and become a journeyman, and they are doing quite well. Financially, and they're doing great in life. So that's the idea, is to encourage people. That's the point of the show. And having you come on and talk about a new trade that we haven't talked about before, I think is tremendous, because we are now seeing, here's another option that you could do.
It's not only that, but kind of your I don't want to say this word. Well, I'll say it. It's kind of the psychology behind your process. I mean, you're an HR person, but you're digging into, hey, the psychology of the employee and what can we do from a personal, professional, bring him in here. We're going to spend money and train him. You know that. I mean, you're doing it day one from your train process, but you're going through and investing not only them, for their skill set, but you can say your soft skill set, or, like I said, it's an avenue where you think about it, but to see a company actually do that, and you guys are doing it, and you've obviously talked quite at length. So you've got 6 years at your current place doing it, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's working. If 55% of your people have been through that program,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing is working. And I'm guessing you probably don't. Every place has turbo. You probably don't have a ton of. You're not fighting over $1 an hour. That's not the conversations you're probably having.
Well, it's interesting that you say about $1 an hour, right? Because there are folks who will jump for $1 an hour if they're at such a place where $1 an hour makes a big difference, right? So let's say a gentleman like I don't start anybody below 18. I'll just put it there. Anything below 18 is not a livable wage. So even if we said 20 to make the math easy, right? That's $40,000 a year if they work full time. So $1 an hour means $42,000 a year. That means a 5% raise, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'd leave my job for a 5% rate. And I'm not saying I would, but I mean,
No.
when you think of it in case of percentages, right? $1 an hour is a lot to somebody who's making $18, $20 an hour. So I get it in this economy. If you're having trouble keeping the lights on, one of the things I ask in sorry, that's a side conversation. I won't go down that, but how to talk about pay in an interview. I could do that for another 10 minutes and we're running out of time. But it's important to understand the ratio that $1 an hour might not mean anything to me. $2,000 a year might not mean a lot to me, but it means a lot to somebody who's only making $18 or $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And so what we have in the glazing community, which is very small, is we have folks who kind of make the circuit, right? They worked for us 15 years ago, and then they went to someplace else, and then they went to someplace else, and then they eventually come back. And then, I've been here 6 years, and we've made a lot of changes in all of the training structure and the hiring, and there's a bunch of really just good people working in our field. And less nonsense because of that hiring filter, right? Folks come back and go, oh, this isn't the same Keystone it was 15 years ago. And if they're rehires, I'm very sure to tell them.
Yeah, this is not your dad's Keystone.
This is not your dad's Keystone. And our second generation of owners is very intent on having a good workplace, providing good work opportunities, good wages, safe workplace, and getting the job done, and still maintaining all of our relationships and keeping the business balanced. They have a really good investment in their employees. And so when folks make that circuit and come back, they did leave for $1 an hour. Right?
Yeah.
Because somebody pissed them off out in the field and they had enough, right? We all leave for different reasons.
Yeah.
I never ask in an interview why somebody left a job. I don't care. I can only focus on what makes Keystone great and what is a good value add to a candidate's life, and hope that they return value to us. So.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, no, and that's why I said, yeah, because there's a lot more. I mean, like I said, you don't want to discount money, and at the end of the day, listen, if it wasn't for money, I'd be farming, but that's a story for another day.
I'd be doing volunteer work. So,
well,
yeah.
see, there you go. But it's one of them things to where it's the culture, it's and where you guys have changed and developed from what it was 15 years ago. In the processes, and when I said, so they probably come in, well, yeah, hey, this isn't what I was used to before. This is like okay, and so it takes some buy-in. It probably takes some buy-in from
the technology piece. Like it used to be in the trades that you could. Well, I don't really like sitting at a computer, so I'm going to go right. And Todd, to your point, if you're a person who likes to sit at a computer, you go to college and you learn to type and write papers and whatever. And if you don't like sitting and you like to be outside and you like to be active, then you go in the trades, right? There's some element of liking that stuff, right? But the thought was that if you went into a trade, you're just going to be working with your hands and you never have to run a computer. Well, now we carry them in our pockets, right?
Phones
all of our guys,
and tablets and
Our guys clock in on an app. They sign all of their HR documents on an app. They sign all of their Tuesday toolbox safety talks on an app. Like everything happens somewhere in an app, right?
Mm-hmm.
They give recognition for a job well done on an app, right? Everything is in the computer, and the field guys have to be tech savvy. We have a whole technology section in our competencies form that I was talking about. You don't get to say, no, I don't ever want to work on a smartphone. No, it's just the nature of life. Everybody needs to have a baseline understanding of tech.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No, you're 100% right on that. We have, like you guys, we have tablets, we got phones, communication. What I love is communication companies that can't communicate, but that's another discussion for another day.
Travis, you can have me back, because I will tell you that there is never going to be a time when someone sets a goal for better communication and then goes, we're done. Nope. Communication will always be. And the more tracks you have to communication, I have a whole page in our handbook. This is how I will communicate with you. I will communicate with you via text for this, via email for this, via announcement on our HR app for this, via phone for this, and via mail for this. And I outline where they can expect communication to come from and what it will be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you need to get a hold of as many people in the radio industry as you can, because I spent 30 years, and for being and like Travis said, for being in the communication industry, the absolute worst at communicating with each other. Had no clue what was going on in any other department in there, and it was incredibly frustrating. So the fact that you're doing that, I think, speaks volumes. And I'm grateful that you took some time here today. I mean, this is not a small thing that you've done to come on and talk about some of this. I'm assuming that you probably always have to be in some sort of hiring mode, that you're wanting people to come in and get you resumes, applications, that kind of thing.
We will always talk with an experienced glazer, even if we're not hiring. Okay. Because that's the nature of the business, right? Yeah. No, there's somebody who's looking from wherever, or somebody who's moving to the area who's a glazer. I had someone call me from California and say, hey, I'm moving to Omaha. I'd like to meet with you guys. I'm like, great, do an application. We'll set up an interview right now, like on the phone. I didn't even have his application. I was like, yep, we're setting it up. And he's like, if I don't get there in time for this, I'm like, just call me, we'll reschedule, no problem. And then anybody else who has like if you have framing experience, fabrication experience, if you have something in construction, I'm going to want to talk to you next as somebody I can train. And if you are, frankly, Travis, a farm kid,
yeah, right? I mean, you're right.
And you've never been on a commercial, any job site, any construction site. If you're a farm kid, I know that you know about tractors. I know you know how to drive. I know you know how to hook up a honey wagon. Like, I know all of those things about you, right? And I will want to talk to you, or just anybody. I will again, I can teach people how to measure twice, cut once.
Yeah. I can't with the Canadian tape measure, right?
Canadian tape measure.
That's my favorite.
I mean, I'm going to make that an interview question. Tell me about the Canadian tape measure.
We got a bridge over here in Council Bluffs that people like the ripper. It's like 8 foot 8 inches tall, about once a week. Oh yeah, so I get someone must have their Canadian tape measure when they were out driving that tape.
Yeah, they call it the ripper over here. That's because of how many RVs have been destroyed by trying to go under that bridge.
Oh, yeah. Yikes. Yep. So but they can find us at keystoneglass.com, and then up at the top there's a working at Keystone function. Go over there, look at our video that introduces you to who we are. It's kind of funny. I put that together as part of our hiring pipeline, mission, vision, values, and then our open positions. We do always have at least one position just listed and open so that we can take in applications. But yeah. And always happy to take recommendations.
There you go.
Somebody wants to send us our way.
Yeah, well, you know what, the trades, like I said, yeah, if they've been the trades have been around, they want to come and talk. You're almost at T what I'm looking for too. You kind of hit them on the head. Them people, it's like, okay, not looking right now. Well, yeah, you're always kind of looking because you never know when the next opportunity is going to hit you. So.
You're never going to let somebody good go. You're like, can you start in 2 weeks so I can figure out where to put you? Yeah. You never want to let them get out the door if you can help it. So,
well, Amy Luckenbill, Keystone Glass, thank you so much for your time.
Right.
Great,
absolutely.
Thank you.
You jumped on, Travis. Thanks to you too. I am going to mark this down that today is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. Travis did not say anything disparaging about the Cornhuskers during this episode.
Wow. Do we need to stop recording so that you can?
No, we're holding to this. We've managed to set a bar someplace, and we're going to hang on to it.
Well, I grew up in Iowa, so I'm an Iowa girl as well. I get it.
Well, that's how it all works.
Yeah.
All right. And we thank you for watching this episode of Circle of Trades. Back very soon with another episode. Until then, take care.